Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're talking about how studying philosophy at the University of Oxford has changed and impacted my Christian faith. We're going to be covering four of the main reflections I got through my philosophy and theology degree. In the last video, in a previous video, I talked about the theology impacts. Now I'm talking about the philosophy impacts. And hopefully this would help you, I suppose, appreciate more about philosophy degrees in general. And also if you're thinking about applying to do a philosophy degree, this might give you some understanding. So first thing which I got from my philosophy degree was a necessity to be more precise about what I say I believe. So in the past, I went through Christian life without really caring too much about the theology. And of course, this video is not me saying to you, oh, you must have a doctorate in philosophy, or you must have a deep study into theology to be able to do this. But I think it helps you appreciate the need to really be very precise about what you believe in. So when I used to be a Protestant, when I said, oh, I believe in sola fide, I believe in sola gratia, I believe in sola scriptura, or other doctrines, I would be like, well, yes, that's what I believe. But in fact, when I actually think about what I believe, is that really what I believe? I'm not sure. What exactly did I mean when I say sola fide? What exactly did I mean when I said sola scriptura? Okay, the Bible's inerrant, but what does being inerrant actually mean? They might be intuitively correct. They might seem to make sense and seem simple. But having studied philosophy, you realize actually a lot of things aren't very simple. You can't just say, oh, there's an intuitive construct here. There's an intuitive definition here. I'm just going to accept it. Actually, there is way more depth to it. And perhaps a statement, let's talk about sola fide as an example, because it's easy to come in mind. Maybe sola fide isn't as clear as it is. Yes, it says only faith alone will save you. Okay, that seems quite convincing. But then if you think about it, well, actually, hold up a second. Does it mean faith alone? And that means only faith. You only need faith and you don't need any works at all, in the sense that not a single thing you do would ever change your aspect of your faith? Or is it that faith leads to works? Does it mean that faith means good works? What exactly do we mean when we say leads to good works? Or when we say, oh, your good works are a result of your faith? What exactly does that mean? You know, all these things, and I'm not saying this as a way to say, oh, that defeats sola fide. Of course, it's more nuanced than that. But what I'm trying to say is by studying philosophy, you then realize that a lot of the definitions that you took for granted, that you thought were simple, are actually not simple. And it goes the other way as well about the beliefs. For example, you could say, well, let's look at the Eucharist. When the priest says, this is my body that has been given for you, and he raises the Eucharist, and you say, well, this is, or behold the Lamb of God, behold him who takes away the sins of the world. You might say, okay, that's the body and blood of Christ. But what actually do we mean when we say that's the body and blood of Christ? By understanding the nuance of your belief, you then actually, on the positive side, have a better appreciation for what you say you believe. To say, well, this actually is the body and blood of Christ, which is just such a beautiful message. It's such a beautiful sacrament. And it's that precision which I've developed through learning philosophy, which has been very helpful. And almost in a different way, the second thing which I learned was a better compartmentalization of belief. And what I mean by that is to say, you know, I'm more happy to just be specific with what I research in. I know I'm good at the continental philosophy. I'm good at the history of philosophy, especially in the 19th, 20th century. And I could do a bit of 19th and 20th century theology as well. I'm not an expert in the early church. So what that means is by doing philosophy, I've realized, and you just learn from the people you're reading, that a lot of philosophers are specialized. There's very few people who could say, well, okay, I'm an expert in all parts of church history. Some are just experts in the early church. For example, Mark Edwards, he's an expert in the early church. And then someone else, like a Kirsten McFarlane, might be expert in the Reformation or early modern Christianities. And you might be like, well, hold up a second. I don't need to know everything. I just need to be specialized in a few things. And that's helped my faith a lot. In the past, I always was like, well, I kind of need to defend all of Christianity. I need to prove all of Christianity. When in reality, all I need to say is, well, these things are my expertise. Some things are outside my expertise. And therefore, I just don't need to deal with them significantly. For example, if you look at my YouTube channel, Philosophy for All, and go into the past, you'll see there's response videos to things on homosexuality, things on the flood, things on the Bible, things on sola scripturis, things on, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Now, am I an expert in any of those? Probably not. Now, do I think I successfully responded to the videos I was responding to? Yes. But in hindsight, Did I need to respond to them? No, because, well, I'm not an expert in that. I'm not a biochemist or whatever the field is for homosexuals or sodomy or whatever they call them, or nor am I a field or expert in the flood and, young earth creation, non-young earth creation. I'm not an expert in these, so why should I even touch these things, right? And that then helps me with my Christianity. So if someone then poses a challenges, and this is more, I suppose, pertinent to interdenominational challenges. If someone makes an argument about, Marian devotions in the first 3 centuries of the church, I'll be like, you might be right. Maybe Marian devotion is a later creation or something like that, or development. But at the same time, I'm no expert in that. So, I don't need to necessarily concern myself significantly with this objection, not because this might not be a good objection. It could be a very good objection, but I shouldn't expect myself to be able to speak much to it. And in the same way, if someone objects to me, my faith, on the basis of something that I have completely no understanding of, I could very much say to them, instead of saying, oh, let me try to find a response, I'll just say, look, mate, I'm not an expert on this. I really don't know what to say to that. Does that mean it challenges my faith? No, because I'm not an authority to even say affirmative or negative. I'm just kind of a hopeful agnostic to these positions, and then I could just move on. So I don't need to worry too much about that. Now, on the topic of philosophy, for all my other philosophy channel, the link to that is in the description below. So if you want to listen to interviews from leading scholars, discussions about philosophy and theology from a more academic lens than this more reflection channel, make sure you go check that out. We recently had an interview with Dr. Sarah Borden on Edith Stein, one of the saints of Europe, a really wonderful 20th century saint. So make sure you go check that interview out as well. So the third thing that I learned was that it hasn't really drastically changed my belief in God or challenged my belief in God. And in fact, it has made me less concerned about proving God. Now you say, well, what does that mean? A lot of people go to study and then they might lose their faith, so they might get concerned by these arguments for the existence of God. It's like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. But tied to my previous point, having studied philosophy has made me realize that, not everything in philosophy is about proof. A lot of times we go around in society, and this is a common trap on I guess, popular academics or popular videos on YouTube channel, where they're like, oh, this disproves God, or this proves God's existence 100%. And I'm like, how many things do you actually believe in which has 100% certainty on that? I guarantee you that that's quite close to actually 0. It's closer to 0 than 100 or even 10. Because if you think about it, everything from induction is not 100% proof. I do not have 100% certainty that when I boil a bottle of water, that at 100 degrees it's going to boil. Nor do I have 100% certainty that the sun's going to rise tomorrow. Now, is that a problem with believing that the sun's going to rise tomorrow, or is that a problem that water is not going to boil at 100 degrees? No, it's reasonable belief. But it also shows that 100% certainty is not necessarily what needs to be proven in order for you to accept something. In the same way that I think with the existence of God, in the past, I was very keen on saying I could prove God's existence. I could demonstrate that God exists. But now I'm just like, I just talk on the terms of probability. It is most probable that God exists. I think it's probable to believe in God. But if you said, do you think the arguments for the existence of God 100% prove the existence of God? I would say most likely not. I'm not necessarily concerned by it. And therefore, the standard of belief that I've had actually, instead of increasing, saying, oh, actually, from philosophy, I've learned all these different ways to test my belief. Of course, I have learned more ways to analyze my belief and my arguments, but also the expectation for what constitutes a successful argument has also just been, I suppose, made more reasonable, more rational, in light of the fact that most of philosophy is done based on probability or based on what is the best explanation, abductive reasoning or inductive reasoning, instead of deductive arguments, because very few arguments in philosophy are actually deductive. Most of them are inductive or abductive. Now, for the final point, what has really helped me, and I think this is what I want to get across with my YouTube channels and my work, is to say there's a lot more nuance behind belief than you think there is. It is not all right and it's not good to just try to create neologisms or expressions for a certain person's belief and say, well, Martin Luther, what was he? Anti-Catholic Protestant, or who was Henry VIII? Adulterer or guy who liked divorce who led to the Anglican Reformation, or Anglican Reformation is a bit of an anachronistic term, the English Reformation. Or it's not all right to just say, well, Nietzsche, what was he? An anti-Christian. There's way more nuance to each of these positions. In the same way, when we engage with different philosophical and theological positions, we need to recognize that there's way more nuance. It's not just sola fide, there's only one way it's been presented. There's numerous ways it has been presented. Same with sola scriptura. Same with a lot of positions in Catholicism. We need to understand the plethora of views and really understand what do we actually mean by them. It's unhelpful to just say, well, let's just accept this view and take it for granted. Let's actually analyze it in more depth and with more precision. And that helps you then learn from people a bit more. For example, with Nietzsche and his anti-Christianity, yes, he was anti-Christianity in the sense he was anti-Apolline Christianity, but he actually quite appreciated the fact that Christ was willing to die for his beliefs. So, all right, then we can learn a bit from why Nietzsche liked Christ. And well, what does Nietzsche's reading of Christ tell us about Christianity? That is, in retrospect, quite a helpful belief. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Those are the 4 things which I've learned. I can see my camera's lost focus. I probably need to get a new camera sometime. But what I'm trying to say here, or what I hope I've shown you with this video, is that learning philosophy at Oxford has really, really helped to develop and improve my faith and belief in God. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Are these 4 things that you would expect me to say, given the fact that I've done philosophy at Oxford? Or are these things that you did not expect me to say, given my time at Oxford? What are your thoughts on this? Like always, stay safe. See you soon. Thank you for watching. And goodbye. I'll see you in the next one.